All right, everybody, thanks in advance for buying some beers for the prisoners here. I want to introduce one of our speakers for qikvideo-2010-06-24-15-10-42.mov. That is Bradley Jardis. Maybe you're familiar with him. You may know him as the member of Law Enforcement Against Prohibition who was recently ejected from Law Enforcement Against Prohibition. He can tell you more about that if he wants. But Brad Jardis, one of the two speakers I think we have. I don't know how many we have. I guess all the board are kind of speakers as well. qikvideo-2010.org. Hello.
For 11 years, I know him and I thought I was doing the right thing. I want to tell you a couple quick stories of things that I've done to people, things that I regret. One night I was driving down the road in the middle of an ice storm, and there was a guy walking up the street, and I stopped to talk to him. And he was drunk, and he wasn't doing anything wrong, he wasn't hurting anybody, but in this state, if you're drunk in public, that can result in you getting thrown in a jail cell, even if you're not hurting anybody or yourself or endangering anybody. I walked up to the guy, and he had his hands in his pockets, and I asked him to take his hands out of his pockets. He didn't. I grabbed him, and I threw him on the ground, and it cracked his eye open right here, and he was bleeding everywhere. And I had to take him to the hospital. Turns out he had an open beer in his hand, and he was afraid of showing it to me, and he was afraid of what would happen to him if he got caught walking up the street drinking a beer. So I caused him a lot of pain, and for that I'm sorry. One night I was sitting on the street typing in license plates into the computer, and this guy drove by named Juan. Really nice Mexican guy, has lived in the state for a long time, and he was certified as a habitual traffic offender. And he wasn't doing anything wrong. I pulled him over because the plates on the car were suspended, and he was just driving down the street safely, and because I pulled him over, he did a year in jail, in state prison, just because he was driving down the street. And for that, I feel very bad. One time, I was an undercover male prostitute.
Oh, baby.
And there was this guy who went on the internet, and he wanted to pay money for sex, and this is when I was 19. I became a cop when I was 18, and he wanted to pay money for sex, and I was the undercover male prostitute that he gave money to, and he accordingly was arrested and penalized, and for that I feel bad. Right now there's a guy in federal prison because of me, because I caught him coming out of the woods with a shotgun, and 20 years earlier he made a youthful indiscretion, and he became a felon. He wasn't doing anything wrong, he just was holding a shotgun in his hands, and I gave the case to the ATF, and they put him in federal prison in New Jersey. For that, I feel very bad. There are countless 20, 18, 19-year-olds whom I've arrested for just being at a party after they graduate high school or, they're home from college. I've hoarded adults onto school buses because they were treating their body as if it belonged to themselves, and for that, I feel bad. There are countless people whom I've arrested for doing things that didn't have an iota of an impact on anyone else's life, and for that I feel very bad. And one thing that you have to keep in mind is that the police today, a lot of them think they're doing the right thing. I thought I was doing the right thing for 11 years. I didn't give up my career because I didn't like it. I loved a lot about my job. And I quit because the great people that moved to the state showed me how I was doing things to hurt people who hadn't hurt anybody else. And if you look through history, there's never been any social change and injustice without people being brave enough to do civil disobedience, which is why the Civil Disobedience Evolution Fund is so important to getting rid of the injustices that our society faces, injustices that I used to play a part in, and injustices that happen today. For what I've done to people, I'm sorry. All I can say is I thought I was doing the right thing at the time, but I hurt a lot of people, and there are countless people being hurt today. And the only way that we can help these future people from being hurt and future people from having their lives ruined is by the brave people who are willing to do civil disobedience, to force the lawmakers. Our court system here in New Hampshire is about to collapse. They can't handle all the bullshit that people like me used to throw down everyone's throats. They can't afford it. And the only way things are going to change is if people are brave enough to do civil disobedience, which spurs the political movement. And I can't beg you enough to help support these people, because if you support them, there's going to be less people doing the things that I used to do. And I'm sorry for what I've done, and I hope we can make a difference. Thanks.